Hello, Pioneers, and welcome back to Satisfactory 1.0. It's fantastic, Mr. Ghost. And I am proud to report that the fuel generator power plant using rocket fuel is running at peak efficiency. So I decided to hook up a drone. And this drone was already set up at the aluminium ingot production area in the desert biome. And now it's taking off to get us some ingots. Those ingots will be made into the canisters for rocket fuel. That will be for me. Well, that drone ride didn't last very long. Oh well, let's get to work on some rail. I'm not too happy with this rail network here. I'm dragging it all the way to the swamp, and this part will connect to the lower portion of the swamp. There is a bunch of resources there that I'm going to tap. But now I am proud to announce this as well. The entire train network is complete. Starting off in the northern forest starting area that I chose, every biome is connected with 2-lane rail. Sloping down into the fog, you'll see the aluminium plant. Now the bauxite train is connected into the 2-lane rail system. Up ahead, you'll notice that the rail spiral is still in place for the bauxite. There was no need to rip it and make it into 2-lane because it's only one train going up there, and that's all I plan on doing. Now, let's carry on to my favorite part of this rail system, the shoreline shuffle. Some may say I ruined the view, but nah, not if you're in a train. Now let's head up into this strange, very highly treed biome. I don't know what biome this actually officially is, but it's very cool. And the paths are really fun. And why not go around a big rock? That was cool. At long last, the grasslands. Now here is an excellent spot for a smelting area for copper, iron, and caterium. We'll be using the leached version of that. It's a new alt. Went over it in the last episode. So here's where I can easily transport myself to build. Of course, we have the transporters. I'll most likely set one up here, but I like taking the train. It's so much fun. Nice little T-junction there, and I have two. One for the PAX train up on top of that hill, which is where I will never build, and a T going to the actual grassland area. Those trains will be going into there to drop off the ore and the sulfuric acid required for the best ingot production, the leached ingots. I have another T here that's going into the cave, potentially. There are resources within that cave. Last I checked, there was a uranium patch there. I am not sure if it's still there. I may or may not use it, but at least I have a T there established. And this area here is the toughest to build train rail. It's a lot of slopes and twists and turns, but it's very important to have the rail in this area because down below is a massive amount of oil, which is where I will be building the plastic over here. Also, steel requires the petroleum coke. So most likely steel ingots will be processed here. And most likely the steel beams and pipe, which the alternate that I'm using currently with the concrete, I think it's the casted one, I think I'll be producing all of the steel and plastic and rubber pretty much right over here. But I might have other rubber plants available for additional resources. This area here is pretty nice and not too bad to build in. There's a few slopes here, as you can see, but I'm getting better at my rail jigs, and I'm able to get more smoother slopes. Over to the right-hand side is a small pool of water that drains down via waterfall into the swampland, and there's a uranium patch right below. So if I need more power above and beyond the fuel generators, then this is probably where I would like to build the power plant. However, that cave that I mentioned, it'd be nice to build over that big open area and put a nuclear power plant there. I don't plan on doing a very large power plant with uranium because the reactors are pretty powerful. And now we're back to where the dune desert is, and this is where it all will start to come together, I hope. Presenting the platform, which will house all of the Tier 9 parts. Now it's time to zoop! Alright, I've had enough zooping in the dunes desert. Now it's time to come here. This area is called the plains, the meadows, I don't know what it's called. But it's now time to prep for the smelting. It's gonna be a lot of work. I'll let you know how it went in the next cut. Oh, delicious sulfur, I found you. Up on a mountain, but near some water. And this is where the sulfuric acid site will be. Sulfur down to where the water is, train in, all the way over there to the smelting area. Let's get to work. Let's plop a miner down on that sulfur. That's a pure node. Overclock it to 1200 and hook the belt in. This lift here is only for reference. It will be moved later as soon as I know where all the machines are going to be. Let's place the foundation so we know where we're at, and then get the walls in, which will be 3 high to clear the water extractor. I'm building above the water extractors because space is a premium here. Now for the floor that the refineries will sit on. I don't know what I'd do without this zooping, boy, let me tell you. Floor is complete. Now it's time for the placement of the refineries. I'm doing 12, but I'm going to need a total of 24. That will get me to 1200 sulfuric acid a minute. The entire copper, iron, and deuterium ingot build will require just over 1000 a minute. Let's pipe up the front end, connect the tanks to the train, and we're good. Now the fun part, rail. I'm connecting the rail in directly to the main line. Later on, depending on train traffic, I might go over and then connect. Time for some power. Now I can use my hover pack. Woohoo! Now it's time to pipe up the back end for the water. What I'm doing is overclocking one water extractor to 150, and that 150 will supply 3 refineries. I draw the pipe down first, then it's easier to line up the water extractor to the pipe and the other water extractors. You get a lock line for both directions. Time for power to the water extractors. I'm using, finally, ceiling power mounts. I haven't had to use the ceiling power mounts because, well, I just rather use power poles. They're easier. But in this case, it was perfect. And now the sulfur flows. 1,200 a minute. Feels good. Now the last step is to belt it all up and get some sulfuric acid, run the trains. She's all working. Let's get some trains. But first, I got to set up a stop to drop off for a second train. And I'm starting to second guess this whole leached stuff. I think the requirement for sulfuric acid is way too high. So I most likely will be using the alloyed copper iron. But the leached is good for the deuterium because you get the higher yield. And now we have a load of sulfuric acid ready to be dropped off for the first time in this playthrough. The sulfuric acid build is finally complete. In between cuts, I designed and built the second sulfuric acid train pickup. We are now doing 1,200 sulfuric acid a minute. That will supply copper, iron, and deuterium with a little left over for travel time. The rail is a real pain in the butt to work with here, but I did the best I could. Like I said, I will probably do some overpasses to increase the train throughput depending on how many trains will be going down this main line. We will see. Next step is iron ingots and copper ingots. Those will be done together. One sulfuric acid train will handle both of those. The other sulfuric acid train will be dedicated to deuterium ore processing into ingots. Everything is here, copper and iron, as well as deuterium, so no trains will be needed, which is the benefit of building in a biome that is considered a starting biome. So we have all the resources here, which minimizes train traffic for now. The platform has been zooped. The first part of this build will be iron, and the plastic hasn't been done yet, so the train for that to deliver will be down below. So the iron ore and plastic will be brought up to this level. Down below, I'll put a platform for unloading plastic bars. The first stop will supply sulfuric acid to iron and copper. The second stop is dedicated to deuterium. Alrighty, Pioneers, there she be. I got a few updates here. All I did was included the copper setup. The rest of it was a rinse and repeat. There's no... I'm not going to edit that much. I did record it, but after I started editing the copper, I'm like, oh, hell with this crap. So the copper and iron are exactly the same. The Caterium is just more machines, so I would say exactly the same. I came up in the middle here with the pipes and all that. The Caterium mine is way over there, but it's not too far, so I just did a spaghetti belt on in. I may clean it up later, but it depends really on if I'm going to go that way. So I got an assessment on the leached stuff. I'll get into that. Here's my little access port for power going down. Kind of cool looking. I like it. Let's see here. Oh, so I'm going to be most likely reworking this area. I want to bring in the plastic train over here and do the same thing, kind of what I'm doing here. I could connect to this lane to go out. So plastic dump off here. It's going to be a 1-1 train because there's tons of plastic and it will be in that train. So I need to come in, somewhere around here. And I don't know if I can make that corner because that's already curving down. So I may need to rework the rail here, which is not a big deal. It is what it is. So I have to push this back and then shorten this. I could do a spiral. So that's another development here. So the plastic train dump off here. And then the ingots, the iron ingots will come through. And the plastic will come through. And I'll have all the constructors here for the iron plate. And then that'll be ready to be trained out of here. So we'll put a stop over here too. So speaking of stops, I'll have a stop to pick up the iron plate right here, as well as the Caterium and copper ingots. The copper and Caterium ingots have a lot more potential for compression because you're going to get wire, Caterium wire, the fused, and the regular wire, which I think it's fused wire, Caterium wire, I can't remember. I'll have to look at the alts again for the names. But it's like 5 and 4 copper ingots to 1 Caterium. So you're mixing the two, metals together to get more yield. And this will be done. So I'm bringing the ingots to the Dune Desert, and I'm going to have them on we have to have a little bus to pick off for all the parts that we're going to have to make for Project Assembly. The last part here, the last 4 parts. So making the wire on site is what I'm going to do. You get a lot more wire on a belt with the ingot form. And then when you pick off, you make it locally for each machine because I'm going for a specific number here. I haven't calculated anything beyond this here. When you're at this stage, mainly I'm looking for 1200 belt or a 1200 belt of ingots out. So in this case, the iron was 1200 out and the copper as well. The input belt was less than 600, believe it or not, because in order to get 1200 out, it's only 600 in of the iron ore. For the copper, it's oh wait, this is the wrong one. Let's go here. So it's 45 in, 110 out. So it's it's over a doubling here. So my assessment on the leached here is that in the future, I'm only going to do Caterium. So sulfuric acid will only be for processing this ore because of the yield issues. If you use the, I think it's pure, you only get 50% yield. So for every 2 ore, it's 1 ingot out. Now that's fine. That's actually fine. But I'd rather go that extra mile to get the extra yield. I think it's 66 was what I calculated. Now on the copper, it doesn't. After thinking about it, it's like, nah, it doesn't make sense to do it. Because the alloyed copper, where you mix iron with the copper, is 100. So I'm only gaining 10 ingots per craft. Granted, this is very high. I mean, look at this. This is insane. This is 1,200 ingots right here. Just this little bit. So it's pretty powerful. But I can use a foundry with iron and copper and get just 100. So I'm definitely not going to do the leached in the future for copper. Same thing with iron. Most likely, it's a difference between 75 and 100 for the alloyed iron ingots. And even then, do I want to use copper for that? So it makes sense maybe to just string up a bunch of general purpose smelters, bring the ore in. It's only 30 a minute, but imagine that off of a 1200 patch. So I can just go to an iron patch and set this all up, bring plastic in, and make iron plate in the same amount, right? But it's just a bigger footprint. That's all. So, go, and that's kind of that's why I like the alloyed, because it is a smaller footprint. It's going to be larger than this one here, but who cares? It's not that much, of a difference. So I'd rather allocate the sulfuric acid to deuterium and also nuclear power when we get around to that. But nuclear power, I've done it, and it doesn't require that much in sulfuric acid. It only requires maybe a normal patch, and you're good. Now down here, I broke down, and I'm doing this now. And it works pretty good. I'm really surprised how clean it looks. Now the reason I haven't done this before is because it used to be glitched. It was actually unintended. But now I remember way back they actually made it an intended part of the lift integrating into the splitter or merger. So I'm like, well, let's just go with it, And it looks pretty darn good. I'm actually very happy with it. But I am old school, and, like I said, it didn't used to work. It wasn't intended to work that way. It was just kind of like, oh, look at that. It worked. And then I think the devs looked at it and went, hey, that's a pretty good idea. Well, let's do it. This is an exception here. I just kind of was trying to get my spacing on this thing. So, but yeah, I do like the lift thing now. I really do. I'm a big fan. I'm going to be using it now. And it works. So I was a little leery of it, but no, I'm good. I'm using the build underneath, bring up concept here. I like this. The only thing I don't like is I can't see the products when I'm looking down at everything. But once you walk away from it, it's fine. We're good. Okay, so I'm going to end it here. Next episode, plastic. It's oil products time and steel. So we'll see how much we can get done. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.